Hey everyone, IRIX guy here. I wanted to talk about a technical configuration for the Rosewill RNX-N300RT router. This is their 300 megabyte per second model. Now it's not a problem with the router, but there's a lot, if you're using it like I am, and in my situation I'm not using it as my primary wireless router. I'm actually using it as a secondary router to extend the range of wireless coverage in my home. So what I've done, I've connected I've got all my rooms wired with Cat 5e running to my Rosewill gigabit switch, and I plugged in the Rosewill, this new N router, the RNX-N300RT. Didn't plug it into the WAN port, just plugged it into one of the LAN ports, one of the LAN ports on the back of the Rosewill router. Now, what that's going to do, it's going to enable it to function as an extension of the existing network. So it's going to pull, and you've got to do a few configuration things, and this is where a lot of people may run into issues. So if you're using it in this fashion, you need to disable DHCP on the Rosewill router, because you've already got another router in effect that's functioning as a DHCP server. So it's assigning IP addresses, and if you've got your additional Rosewill, in my scenario, also assigning IP addresses, you've got the possibility of conflicts there. Now you could go in and adjust the IP address range that the primary router assigns and then that this Rosewill router assigns. That's more complicated. Just disable the DHCP server on the Rosewill router. Now that's actually easy to do. You just go into in their menu interface, you go to DHCP, and then there's a thing that says DHCP server. You just say disable. Now that was part of the puzzle, but after I got all that set up, I had internet connectivity. The internet connectivity would drop every few minutes or so, and it wasn't a cabling issue, wasn't a wireless interference issue, and that's something else. If you do encounter issues with interference, make sure that both of your routers, your existing router and your new Rosewill router, are on different channels. But there's a setting in here on this Rosewill router, and you go down into the configuration options in the web interface, of course, and you go to IP and MAC Bonding. Now MAC address is a hardware address. Every device on the network has a MAC address. So what you need to do in here, on the top part where it says IP and MAC Bonding, you need to enable ARP bonding. And then down below there, what you'll need to find is the list of MAC addresses and the IP associated with your gateway. So your gateway, that's going to be the IP of your existing wireless router that's connected to the internet. So what I did, there's a box that says bond. So I checked that for the IP address associated with my with my only internet gateway. And then I did, I saved that and enabled it. And then you may have to go down, I forget to enable it if I had to go down into the ARP list and or binding settings, the submenus of that. You may have to tinker with that because you'll have to get it onto where it allow you to check bind. And then when you go down to ARP list, it'll indicate that the status is bound for that internet gateway. Now I found that by doing that, my internet connectivity never drops. So it's definitely something, at least in my network, that I had to do to make things work perfectly. And also keep in mind that you've got to have your new Rosewill router, if you're doing a configuration like mine, on the same subnet as your existing router. Because if they're on different subnets, they won't talk. And then also make sure that the IP address assigned to your Rosewill router, which I think by default is 192.168.1.1, make sure it's not the same IP as your existing router, and make sure it's not the same IP as another device that already exists on your network. That could be laptop, iPad, iPhone, etc. So I'm really happy with this router, but I did have to get in and further customize it to make everything work. But it's blazing fast. The signal strength is amazing, and like all Rosewill products, I couldn't be happier. But feel free to share this video with others, and I welcome your feedback. You have a good day.